Hi, my name is Brandon Gower-Winter, and welcome to my Master's by Dissertation presentation titled Using Machine Learning as Adaptive Mechanisms for Agent-Based Models Simulating Complex Social Phenomena. So, what are agent-based models? Well, formally, agent-based models, or ABM, are dynamic computational models that utilize autonomous agents capable of interacting with other agents and adapting to novel situations within the simulations they occupy. Informally, you can think of an agent-based model as simply an environment, a set of agents that occupy said environment, and a set of rules or behaviors that govern how said agents interact with the environment and amongst themselves. Implementations of agent-based models can be found in many different research fields, namely economics, biology, epidemiology, and archaeology. Digging a little deeper into this, if we consider archaeology to be the study of human past using material remains, we can view our history along a timeline of sorts. Along this timeline are snapshots. These snapshots represent points or periods in the timeline in which archaeologists have discovered relics or artifacts that provide insight into the happenings of the world at that point in our history. However, what happens in between these snapshots? Well, we don't know. That is where agent-based models come in. By starting at one snapshot and defining the context of the period in an ABM, we are able to simulate the transition from one snapshot to another. I've mentioned the word agent quite a few times now, but what exactly is an agent? Well, the easiest way to think of it is that agents are the main protagonists, or the drivers of the simulation. They are also heterogeneous, meaning that no two agents are the same. Agents are also scale agnostic. This means that an agent could be something as small as an individual cell, or it could be something like a human or animal, or perhaps something larger like a household or city. Now, despite how great ABMs seem, they are not a panacea. There are currently 4 core issues facing ABM research. Of the 4 issues presented here, 3 of them have research currently underway. However, research into adaptive mechanisms is largely absent, and therefore the focus of our research. In the context of agent-based models, adaptability refers to an agent's ability to change its decision-making process in the face of changing environmental conditions, alternatively called stressor events. Additionally, adaptation can occur at 2 levels. The first, at an individual level, where an agent will change its beliefs in the presence of new information, and secondly, at a generational level, whereby beliefs travel from one agent to another, either through reproduction or anthropic pressure. This is where machine learning comes in, as a mechanism by which we can introduce adaptive behavior. There are 3 primary motivations. Firstly, many biologically inspired machine learning techniques fit very naturally with most agent definitions. Secondly, both agents and many machine learning techniques utilize internal models of their environment. And lastly, machine learning techniques can introduce both types of adaptation, individual and generational. With all this information, we can now formulate our research question. Can machine learning techniques, specifically genetic algorithms and cultural algorithms for generational adaptation, and Q-learning for individual learning, be utilized as mechanisms for modeling adaptive agent decision-making? To answer this, we need to meet the following 3 requirements. First, we need quantitative metrics by which we can measure adaptive capacity. In our case, we use the commonly used resistance and recovery metrics. Second, we need a significant stressor event, and lastly, we need to formally define the different types of agents we will be utilizing. That brings us to our stressor event, the Predynastic Period. Approximately 3,000 years in length, this period refers to the time in ancient Egyptian history whereby there was a rapid cultural shift from nomadic hunter-gatherers to the ancient Egyptian kingdom we are most familiar with, an agrarian society wholly dependent on the Nile. Modern theory suggests this cultural shift occurred as a result of a complex socio-political environment as well as climate change. One such theory posits that intense desertification forced the ancient Egyptians to adopt farming as a primary form of resource acquisition. It is by utilizing the intense climate change of this period as a stressor event by which we evaluate the adaptive capacity of our agents. Speaking of agent types, our work is primarily concerned with comparing the adaptive capacity of traditional rule-based agents to our own machine learning agents. Our agents represent ancient Egyptian households and are composed as follows. The traditional agents are composed by chaining together rules or threshold functions in code, whereas our adaptive agents are composed of 3 machine learning techniques. Q-learning, to determine whether an agent should farm, forage, or migrate, a genetic algorithm which passes along beliefs and behaviors from a parent agent to an offspring agent. Finally, we have a cultural algorithm which propagates those same behaviors from one agent to another agent within the same settlement. Early on in our research, we discovered that the traditional agents were extremely finicky. As such, we introduced a third agent type called the utility agent, which simply consists of the Q-learning from our adaptive agents, which affords us greater analytical capability. Examining our adaptive agents in closer detail, you can consider each agent as part of a single, fully connected social fabric that allows information to be exchanged from one agent to another. First, we have the environment, which provides the agents with information indirectly about whether foraging or farming is a better strategy. Then, we have our household agents, which use this information provided by the environment to make an informed strategic decision. Each agent is also part of a settlement, which allows information to be exchanged bidirectionally, mediated by what, in cultural algorithm research, is referred to as a belief space. Additionally, settlements can exchange information probabilistically following the extent formula using min-max normalization. Lastly, new households can be produced which combines the information from the 2 parent households in accordance with the genetic algorithm. As you can see, most offspring households are the production of 2 households from the same settlement, although a household can be the offspring of 2 parent households from different settlements. Now that we've gone over all the preliminaries, let's talk about the experiments. We elected to use scenario experimentation, whereby our agent types would be put into 5 distinct scenarios. By specifying the start and end range for rainfall, temperature, and Nile flood height, and the method used to interpolate between these 2 ranges, we were able to create 5 scenarios with increasingly intense and complex stressor events, in our case, climate change. Unfortunately, at the time of making this video, we are still in the process of recording and parsing all of the data generated by our simulations. However, despite being unable to make final conclusions, there are a number of initial findings that we would like to talk about. The first is that of the perceived adaptive capacity of the traditional agents. During development, we noticed that the traditional agents were incredibly sensitive to their starting input. One run they might underperform and die, or they might overperform and behave uncharacteristically. To combat this, we had to do a bit of parameter tuning to find the intended behavior of the agent in most scenarios. From the onset, it has been quite clear that the traditional agents exhibit 2 of the major ABM problems mentioned earlier: unpredictability and a lack of adaptability. That brings us to the utility agents, which were introduced later into the researcher's life cycle, but their versatility was immediately noticed. As you can see, the utility agents are, in general, able to resist or recover from the effect of the desertification to a greater degree than the traditional agents. The caveat here being that some households, no matter the conditions, are unable to adopt farming as the preferred method of resource acquisition. This is largely due to the utility agents' reliance on personal experience, which is what allows them to employ different resource collecting strategies, as shown on the screen now. With yellow indicating a settlement location and red indicating farmland, you can see that the utility agents adopt farming as the primary resource acquisition strategy in a non-linear fashion. However, if a couple households are lucky and manage to avoid the effects of the desertification, they are unlikely to start farming at any point in the simulation. Moving on to our adaptive agents, you can see that they, again in general, outperform both the traditional and utility agents. This is largely due to their ability to propagate the best strategies, in this case farming, along the social network to unstressed individuals. Though it is true that we still need to finish our data collection, we are hopeful that this trend continues for all of our scenarios. That brings us to the end of the video. Thank you for watching until the end, and I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.